Hello, everybody, wherever you may be. I presume most of us are probably going to be in North America. I know that I've already seen there's somebody from London, so good afternoon, old boy. Nice to have you with us, Thomas. You can tell, I think most of you can tell from my accent that while I do come from England, I've actually been in Montreal for 25 years. But I am the Chief Product Officer at Preview 3D, and I'm delighted to have Jonathan with us today for our Expert Xchange. And what we're going to be covering today, we're having just a general discussion. We're going to probably just do a little poll right at the beginning, and then we're going to cover quite a bit today. But for everybody who's attending, welcome, and feel free to pop a little question in the chat if you do have one as we're going through it, and then we'll crack on. Really, we'll probably do let's kick off with a quick poll for everybody who's here, because we can change a few things as necessary. Want to make sure that does the most people here work with scan data automatically as part of your day-to-day. So take a few seconds on that side of things. That will help us craft the discussion today. That's cool. It only takes a minute or so. I think I see which way this is leaning, and we suspected as much, so that's great. I don't think we're going to have to change too much. But welcome today. So Jonathan, Topo 3D has been on the market, I think, since 2000, something like that. It started, in fact, I believe, by your father, and you joined around 2010. So good Lord, times flies. And would you give us a quick version of, like, who do you scan for today? Perhaps what a typical project looks like, something like that.
Yeah, sure. So, like you said, the adventure all started in around 2000 with my father doing mainly surveying for construction. So that was his background, and he was looking to slowly retire around 2010. And because I came from a background of telecom, computer science, it was natural for me in 2010 to kind of expand on what we were doing. So this is where the scanning business, the drone, all the other services that you see on our website kind of took off. So before we were mainly in civil work,
Okay.
Construction and building, and also building. But now we are like scanning, 3D scanning, bathymetric survey, and all that. Well, we've expanded our clients and our sectors also. So now we do industrial plants, infrastructure owners. So it kind of changed, and yeah.
Indeed, I understand it is quite broad. So I've got a funny little picture I'd like to share with everybody, just to give you a little extra context about the type of work you do. So this is in Montreal, and for those who don't come from Montreal, before I came here, somebody described that there are only two seasons in Montreal. There's winter and construction. But I think for here, so it seems as though winter doesn't stop you from doing scanning. I know there's snow on the ground there, and this was one of the projects you delivered, and this is in Montreal, so for everybody to understand. So I did find that a bit funny.
Yeah, it doesn't show on that picture, but I can tell you that day it was really, really, it was freezing. Like the RTC wasn't even working for you guys that know the RTC. It wasn't working. It was too cold. I think it was like minus 30 or something.
Yeah.
So it was
Wow.
really, really cold. Yeah.
And for those of you again who haven't ever been in cold, I never thought. I was like, below -10, does it make a difference? Oh my god! Yes, it makes a
Yeah.
difference.
So
And I
like
didn't think not.
before those kind of contracts, before the scan was around, obviously we were doing like a survey with the total station, like points that were important. But now we're just like visiting once, obviously, taking all the 3D data and delivering this to our client. So it's changed a lot.
So, well, then let's get to the heart of why we are talking
Mhm.
today. So you start out, you do your scanning, and then the project wraps, fantastic, and then you hand
Yeah.
off the data to your client. What does that actually look like for you and your clients? What are you giving them? How do you give it? How do they get it?
Uh, Before we were basically ending out just a link, a URL for them to download the scan. And the problem was that, well, you have the typical problem where you share, we're on the Google platform, right? And you share to people that are like on Microsoft or SharePoint, and they don't know, uh, and it brings some problems. So you try to share, and you always run into kind of problems, and you don't. And after they have access to this file, you don't hear from them, right? And that was and that was a problem because the relationship is basically over.
Okay.
You end out the scan or the drawings or whatever, and it was really, really, really difficult. It was a pain because you have to explain to non-technical people sometimes how to download and how to manage big files.
Okay.
And that was a big problem. And now that we're on Prévu, we're just sending a URL link, and they have access to their file. They can actually view directly. So having
Right.
non-technical people work with just a URL link is magic. Yeah.
So, are most of your clients then more non-technical, or do they fall into a bit technical fluency? Something else, maybe?
You have like clients that are really super knowledgeable in their field, like civil engineers and structure
Okay.
and all. But at the end of the day, they're not like computer science people, So they're trying to work with big files, and they're caught up with some, day-to-day problem with the computer management and IT service at their company.
Okay.
So you run into those problems quite a lot and fast when you have to deal with scan files.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, is this you've mentioned like on the construction, the BIM side? Is this the
Mhm.
same you found across civil, construction, industrial? I mean, does it look different depending on the industry who's receiving the data, or is it a very common problem, the same?
Uh, Actually, when you speak to people in civil, uh, most likely they don't want the point cloud, right? They just want to add the AutoCAD file, the extraction.
True. True. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you deliver that, you don't hear from them anymore after. So that's a problem also because you don't have like recurring business. When you're speaking to construction, they're really action oriented. So it's super, it's a super fast paced business. So from getting the scan to the deliverables, it's super fast, and they don't mostly most of the time they don't have the tools to visualize the point cloud, so they don't even know what they have.
Hmm.
And
And
that's why I'm always getting to the client, and I'm always saying, you're like the Scotiabank slogan, you're richer than you think, because they have the
I
entire
have the
data, but they're not using it.
and
And that's why like sending this into 3D makes sense because they can actually see what they have.
I'm guessing also construction people they're on site also, rather than just sitting in an office somewhere. If they have a laptop, they have access to the data immediately. So probably
Yeah,
benefits
most
there.
of the time the construction, they have like laptops, they're sitting in the office that has not really good condition on the site. And so it's always a problem to send them like big data files. So having just a link for them to like look at the point cloud on the iPad in Preview 3D is super easy.
So I mean, as a from the surveyor, the scanning provider side of things, you talk about the churn of projects where once you hand off, you don't hear from them again. Is the delivery experience really? Do you lose business because of the delivery experience? Do you gain business with a better experience? From your history, do you think that there's a percentage you can put on the delivery experience helping or being to your detriment?
I I think it's pretty difficult to kind of grasp the in percentage or in dollar, but what I can say is that before, because you were delivering just files, you're getting compared to the other guy that is doing the same thing. He's scanning and delivering files, and the relationship kind of ends when you're delivering the files or the deliverables, right? But because now you're ending a link and you're putting all their data into a vault in the Preview 3D, well, they get to use that data and share between them. So on the long run, you get the relationship stays, you you keep
Right.
well, actually you can keep billing them. Like let's say you're charging them just $100 to have access. It's actually a subscription. So before you didn't have like recurring revenue, and now you kind of start to enter in another area where you can actually bill and do recurring revenue.
Brilliant. So, I mean, you spoke about where you came from, where your father's business came from, and then it was starting construction and it expanded. But was there a specific moment in the past, maybe where a particular client or a project where the kind of the light bulb went on, and you realized that you could change the way that you could deliver the project? Was there a particular scenario where you just went, "Oh my God, no, this has to change"?
Yeah, I think it comes back again to the having to manage like files. When you're sending like files to clients, they don't they have difficulty with managing that. And we had to numerous time we had to go to the client, show them the scan actually, because they were not looking at the good file. They don't know how to manage it. They are opening it from this network server. It's not local, and because so all sorts of issues. So most of the time, to have like a good user experience, we had to go there. So that's one scenario where we had to
Okay.
do a lot of education, and this is the moment where we said, maybe there's a better way to do this.
Okay. So you were physically going on site to
Yeah.
give them the file, to show them the file, but to actually then
Well,
help them through. Well,
if you can get through sending them and they receive the file, after that, you have the issue of for them to use it correctly.
okay.
Uh,
Okay.
and yeah, and that is another problem that we have.
All
I'm
right.
not saying all the clients, but it's a recurring thing.
So I'm guessing a lot of it's not just they're using the data, they're probably talking about it to other stakeholders, to their customers as well. And they need to be able to
Yeah.
communicate effectively.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So they're using the file and they're not using it properly. They're doing a meeting and it kind of gets, you know,
Okay. Okay.
and uh, But now when you're like actually giving them a URL, they don't need to install anything. They go in Preview 3D, and everybody can meet in Preview 3D, navigate, and it's super. It's easier to share than having them sharing in the presentation the actual data.
Right. Just everybody, if you do have questions, there is a chat available. Feel free to pop your questions in there, and we can do it in real time, or we can leave it till the end. But yeah, so just from the client side of things, and from where you are, the light bulb went on. Handing people files that you're at risk that they're not going to actually even sell it on properly. I'm curious then, from what you've delivered, is there the quality for them? Are they then, when you give them a file and they don't actually have a link, they don't go into that, are they saying, oh my god, you've given us crap, you've given, the quality of the data is actually not what we expected, because they don't know how to handle the file? Is that something you found to be a problem?
Well, yeah, this is when you hear about it, but sometimes you don't hear about it, and they get frustrated because they're trying to use it and it doesn't really work, or you don't really know their user experience, because you don't, at the end of the day, you don't know what's their computer configuration and everything. And the idea is to give them the seamless user experience, like for everyone to have like the best quality, and to render your work as best as you can for them. Yeah.
Okay, because that, yeah, I'm guessing then that it's, for them, it's critical that they see the value in what they're getting. Obviously, they've paid you for the service. You want to make sure that they see the value. But for other surveyors as well, and scanning providers, who are watching today, or other ones you speak to, is there a risk? I mean, you've identified the risk on their end, that if there's a disconnect between what you're giving them and what they think they're supposed to be getting. Is there a risk, I guess, from the business side with that approach, or without having a single shared truth that you can share with them instead of a 40 gig file?
I would say it's not a risk. I think it's an opportunity to build on. Yeah, I think it's more of a taking that risk and changing that into an opportunity to build a longer relationship, and getting rid of those problems that I was talking about. So yeah, this is where I think it changes.
Something that Jonathan has been with Preview for a while now, and something that we've provided, and I'm curious to really dig into the value, is we have a white label. You can basically brand the experience around your own brand and your own business. What's the value that having a white label experience from your side of things brings to your customers?
I think the idea is that before, you're actually delivering pretty much the same thing. You know, before you were delivering a steak, okay, but it was on a paper plate, and now you're delivering the same steak, but like on a proper plate. So there's a different perceived quality. It's the same, but it's not the same. So at the end of the day, you build that relationship, and you get recurring revenue, because you're just like doing the extra work, doing the extra mile to enable them to see the data better, and to have like a better user experience.
Fair enough. The other I mean, I do like the steak analogy because I like a good steak, and I definitely if it was just coming in a paper bag, I think I might enjoy it less. Then okay, so I think that we've probably covered the main meat of the conversation here. I do see a question which I'll get into a second. Then, um, if we were to continue going the old way,
Mhm.
at what point? What's the risk there in um, delivering files the old way and continuing to live the files the old way? Is it something which, you know what, it's actually going to be okay for the next 10, 20 years? Or do you see that there's going to have to be a change? Do scans get so big now that it's just impossible to deliver it the old way? What's the risk behind that?
Well, yeah, it's true that like the project are getting bigger, but I think it's the main thing is the invisibility, because after you share the actual link, you're like out of the transaction.
Okay.
So there's an invisibility problem, and the fact that commoditization, you're like doing the same thing as the competition. You're just ending off E57 files, LAS files, recap files, or the deliverable, and after that you're out of the equation. So from the client perspective, they're comparing apple to apple. So you want to like get out of that circle, and also the fact that there may be a trust erosion, because if you're ending off the files and they're using it, but it's not super friendly or they're having problem,
Yeah.
maybe they're not going to talk to you and come back.
Okay.
And you don't, and you don't know that story,
Right. Right.
so maybe you're eroding that relationship and you don't know,
Fair enough.
and they're
Um,
gonna just call someone else after.
important point to maintain that relationship. Got it. I'm going to just show. I've got a picture here, a couple of pictures actually of some very large data sets. So you were
Hmm.
talking about the scale is only going to get bigger. Could you also walk me through just some general use cases that you have found from where you are and what you've used Preview 3D for?
Yeah, that was a plant. It's about a 2000 scan position, if I recall. And before we had Preview 3D, we were doing that. This is actually a JPEG. It's not even in Preview 3D platform. But before we were generating, on top of sending them the files or the deliverable, we were like generating those pictures and sending those pictures because we wanted to enable the project manager, the different people that are working on the project, with a super easy way to visualize what we've captured, for them to put on a slide, to talk about the project. So this is the way we were doing it before. So sending them a JPEG, but now we just like sending them a 3D access to their entire data. So that is a massive leap forward. Um, so yeah, so we stopped actually selling just project. We more on a trajectory to sell a relationship.
Okay. And the relationship then having your own branded experience reinforces the value that you're bringing and reminds them to keep coming back. Are there any?
Yeah, because
Go
yeah,
ahead.
because because of the white label experience, they just think that okay, we're going like on a Topo 3D site, and
Okay,
it's kind of a, they get an habit. It's a good habit, but they're just like, uh, when you get their data and they just keep coming, there's always just one point access. And
got
if they
it,
have like file scatter all over the
got
place,
it.
so that white label platform is like super easy for them, because they just go on the website and is always, they don't have to search on a network or search anywhere.
Everything's just one link away. Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, We've only got a few minutes left. I just want to address a couple of the questions.
Mhm.
One is actually probably more for me that we can cover. It's around NVIDIA and the digital twin in investigation. It was just asking to know about a bit more about Preview 3D. So obviously, Preview 3D is agnostic to the input, and we can take here this. You've got TLS and SLAM scans, drone and photogrammetry, 360 video. But we then also have a way to connect to other people's platforms. So not just through our own platform with a link and with a white label experience, but we can connect to things like Revit and the Siemens ecosystem in the NX and Teamcenter and things like that. And the other one is for NVIDIA is Omniverse. So if people aren't familiar, Omniverse is their kind of digital twin area that they want to ingest different files, whether or not it's coming from scan data or whether or not it's been everything has to get converted, I believe, into or mainly into USD. They also support FBX and OBJs and that type of stuff. So we have a connection to Omniverse. It's only going to get bigger and better, because what we want to do is basically a bit like what Jonathan is saying, is from the ingestion point, you create your project and you can service this, whether or not it's to your client as a link, will then connect to their own ecosystem themselves, whether or not it's Revit, or whether or not it's going to eventually be things like Omniverse and all the Siemens products as well. There's another question here just about how does a client work with or use the 3D data inside Preview 3D? Maybe you want to talk a bit about that. Oh, there we go. So I can talk about this, but from your experience, you're talking about the client entering Preview 3D and they're working with their stakeholders. What do you find is the most common scenario for your clients in once they get inside Preview 3D?
I think the main thing I see obviously is downloading the files when they need the file to do something else. But because of all the connectors, like you said, they don't need anymore to download the file. They just connect their Revit connector on it and they go about it. But the most case that I see is just for them to kind of, it's not the proper, navigate the data, for
Right.
them to collaborate, take measurement, check, overlay CAD files on it. So yeah, mostly like collaboration, visualize the data, do project management. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the easiest case. This is where you begin. After that, they connect Revit and they do their work. And
Just so
if they need to download the file, they download the file if they need the point cloud.
for some people who might not be overly familiar, we also, once we get the scan data in, we automatically create a 3D mesh from this scan data, which you can create assets from. You can connect to your ERPs. You can send those meshes to a third party like Revit or NX or something. But you can also make decisions. You can move them around. You can measure against them. You can even move the assets and just to make important decisions. So once you're inside the platform, you're able to navigate, to visualize, to create these assets, as well as move them around, like layouts and something. Essentially, you're making decisions before you need to actually build anything, move anything. So I guess once Jonathan has handed this off, he doesn't know what decisions are being made and why and how. And I think that maintaining that relationship, having the experience, the white label, the simple link, gives them the confidence that they're going to be able to make the decisions early, and probably saving a lot of time, and particularly a lot of money before their potentially decisions go wrong. We are at time. I do appreciate everybody being on the call for the questions. To remind anybody who is in Montreal, May the 11th, we have the Connection event, and we will be Jonathan and I will also be there. So if you want to come and grab us, if you want to dig into this conversation a little bit more, or just come and see us talk a bit about that. And also, Jonathan was super helpful in building a white paper, helping for us and really talking about how to scan for the highest quality digital twin. And you can go and download that off our website. But I appreciate your time today, Jonathan. Super helpful. The fact that I understand a lot more, I definitely understand a lot more about your side of things, and having to pass the trust on to your customers that you are delivering the value to them in a way which they can actually recognize, and then come back to you as a provider to be able to then say, okay, I understand the value, and we want to come back to it. Isn't just always one project and done. Brilliant.
There's one thing I just want to add.
Sure.
It just came yesterday. Is a client that wanted for me to do a site visit, and they had a 360 camera. So I just told them, just walk around with your 360 camera and send me the video link. So I took that, send it into a Preview 3D, and they had the entire, facility already in 3D. And after that, they say, well, I shared them that, so I could actually quote for the scanning, and they were like kind of what, mesmerized about the platform. And now the door was open for me to do a quote and to get that business. And for me to do the quote is easier, and they already walk, and it's just like everything is connected.
Yeah, and that's brilliant, because I'm guessing the turnaround was probably a day or two from the time that they gave it, and then suddenly, and I know it kind of went back to the technical side of where they are and what they don't know what they don't know, and
Exactly.
yeah. So the fact that you're helping educate them, you're opening their eyes, and that's brilliant. Again, thanks once again for your time. Really appreciate it, and I look forward to syncing up with you again at Connection in just a couple of weeks. And thanks to everybody on the call. Much appreciated. See you on the next one.
See you soon.